Imagine a life where you're constantly pushed around, ridiculed, and made to feel worthless. For Ben, a quiet and unassuming boy, every day at school was a painful reminder of his insignificance. But what if I told you that this seemingly helpless kid was on the brink of discovering an impossible power, one that would not only change his face, but also his destiny forever? Our story truly begins with a typical scene. Jason, the school bully, tormenting another classmate. This time, however, something snaps inside Ben. Fueled by a rare surge of anger, he decides he's had enough. He confronts Jason, and in a surprising turn, manages to knock him to the ground. Enraged, Jason immediately summons his friends, ordering them to catch Ben. Ben, quick on his feet, makes a desperate escape, darting into the boys' bathroom to hide. He locks himself inside a stall, hoping Jason will give up, but Jason is relentless. He systematically opens each stall door, searching for his target. Yet, when he finally flings one open, he's met with a baffling sight. Leonard stands inside, not Ben. Jason is left utterly bewildered. Ben has vanished without a trace. To understand this bewildering disappearance, we must rewind 1 month. Ben had recently enrolled at Eric Noodle School after relocating to a new city with his mother. The unfamiliar surroundings left him feeling nervous and out of place. The first person to approach him was Kenny, but Ben, naturally shy and reserved, struggled to form connections or engage in conversation. Tragically, it wasn't long before he became Jason's latest target. At home, life had also undergone a significant shift. Ben's mother, Liz, had begun a relationship with Max's father, Phil. After their marriage, the four of them officially became one blended family. Then, one peculiar morning, the impossible unfolded. Ben descended for breakfast, anticipating a normal day, but his own mother stared at him with an unfamiliar gaze, as if she had never seen him before. She didn't recognize him. Confused and terrified, Ben tried to grasp what was happening. He then looked into the mirror, and the moment his reflection met his eyes, he was consumed by panic. Somehow, he now looked exactly like Kenny. Without a second to spare, Ben fled the house in terror, running aimlessly through the streets. He eventually reached school and, upon seeing Max, frantically tried to explain his predicament. Naturally, Max initially dismissed his incredible story. Who could believe something so outlandish? But then, a shocking sight unfolded. Kenny himself walked through the school hallway. In that instant, Max finally realized Ben was telling the truth. Before they could devise a plan, the school bell rang. Thinking quickly, Max instructed Ben to remain hidden until classes ended, knowing that chaos would erupt if people noticed two Kennys walking around school simultaneously. Meanwhile, back at home, Liz grew increasingly worried after realizing Ben had disappeared. Scared and confused, she rushed to the school to ask Max if she knew his whereabouts. Max, however, feigned ignorance. As the situation escalated, Phil also became seriously concerned. He decided to call the police and ask for help locating Ben. Simultaneously, Ben began to panic. He couldn't even return home, as he still bore Kenny's face. With nowhere else to go, he decided to wander through the park, contemplating his next move. It was there, in the park, that Ben encountered a girl named Carter. The strange part was that she somehow already knew who he truly was. Even though he looked identical to Kenny, Carter still recognized him as Ben, leaving him utterly shocked. Carter then began to explain his situation. She revealed that he possessed a special mutant power and that this bizarre transformation would recur in the future. However, she assured him that once he learned to control his abilities, everything would gradually become easier. Before Ben could ask more questions, Carter abruptly vanished. Utterly confused and emotionally exhausted, Ben eventually drifted off to sleep in the park. Hours later, he awoke amidst a heavy storm. As he looked at himself, he quickly noticed something vital. His body was finally back to normal. He no longer looked like Kenny. Without wasting any time, Ben ran through the streets as fast as he could. Fortunately, he was eventually found by Detective Darren, who safely brought him home. With Max's help, Ben managed to concoct a believable excuse for his sudden disappearance. Afterward, he quietly retreated to his room. Later that night, when Detective Darren returned home, he gazed at a picture frame holding a photo of his daughter, Carter. The moment he saw her image, His eyes welled with tears, making it clear that he missed her deeply and thought about her every single day. Over the next few weeks, Ben became desperate to understand his strange powers. With Max's assistance, he repeatedly attempted different methods to transform again, but nothing worked. His powers simply refused to manifest. After countless unsuccessful attempts, Ben finally gave up, slowly coming to terms with the idea that perhaps he was just a normal kid once more. One morning, just as Liz was preparing to take the children to school, Detective Darren unexpectedly arrived at the house. He requested to speak with Ben alone. During their private conversation, Darren showed Ben a photo of a strange symbol and asked if he had ever seen it before, but Ben shook his head and said no. Later that evening, during dinner, Liz and Phil, curious, asked Ben what Darren had wanted to discuss, but Ben concealed the truth, claiming it was nothing important. It was then that he learned something surprising. Carter was actually Detective Darren's daughter. Darren had raised her entirely by himself after his wife passed away. Meanwhile, Max was tired of witnessing Jason bully Ben every day. To protect her stepbrother, she struck a deal with Jason. In exchange for leaving Ben alone, she lent him her favorite headphones. During a school break, Ben pressed Max for more information about Carter. That's when Max revealed something strange. According to everyone, Carter had disappeared after being sent to boarding school and was never seen again. Hearing this, Ben was shocked and told Max that he had actually seen Carter in the park just a few days prior. Max could hardly believe it. Later, after school, Ben and Max were walking home when they saw Jason picking on another student named Owen, bullying him as usual. Witnessing this ignited Ben's anger. He couldn't stand to see someone else suffer, so he decided to intervene and help. But then, Max noticed something peculiar. Ben's face began to change right before her eyes, and within seconds, he looked exactly like Owen. Before they could even process what was happening, Max received a message from her mother, asking her to come find her. At the same time, Ben decided to run back to the park, hoping he could meet Carter again and finally get some answers. However, when he arrived, he was surprised to see Detective Darren instead. It was then that Ben learned something heartbreaking. Darren hadn't seen Carter in a very long time. 2 years earlier, a massive storm had nearly devastated the city. Back then, Darren was helping rescue people when he suddenly saw Carter running directly toward the storm. And then, something unbelievable happened. The storm suddenly dissipated. Soon after, Carter told him her life was in danger and that she had to leave. Darren had no choice but to let her go if he wanted to keep her safe, and ever since that day, he had never seen her again. After hearing the story, Ben realized his transformation was slowly wearing off. He quickly rushed back home before anyone noticed. That evening, Liz took Max shopping for a dress for the school spring dance. Meanwhile, Ben stayed home and helped Phil make dinner. But during their conversation, something strange suddenly occurred. Ben noticed that his voice had changed. He now sounded exactly like Phil. Luckily, Liz and Max arrived home just in time. Before anyone noticed anything unusual, Ben rushed upstairs to his room. After calming himself down, his normal voice finally returned. Later, Phil asked Ben to take dinner to Max. Instead of buying a dress, Max had gone home upset, feeling that Liz was trying to replace her real mother. While eating in her room, Max opened up to Ben, saying that even though her mother wasn't always around as she should be, she still didn't want anyone taking her place. The next morning at school, Ben walked with Owen to his locker. Since Jason always left rotten eggs inside to bully him, Owen was already expecting the worst. But this time, something unexpected happened. The rotten eggs were inside Jason's locker instead. Jason instantly grew furious. Believing Ben had switched the lockers, he tried to attack him. But before things could escalate, Max suddenly stepped in to defend her brother, throwing rotten eggs all over Jason. Sadly, one of the teachers caught her. Soon after, Max was called to the principal's office, where the principal stated he would call her father that evening. During dinner, Ben secretly awaited the phone call. When it finally came, he quickly answered the phone. Using his new voice-changing power, Ben perfectly copied Phil's voice and pretended to be him while speaking to the principal. The next morning, Carter suddenly reappeared, but instead of being friendly, She scolded Ben, telling him he was wasting his powers on silly things. Ben quickly asked why she kept running away. That's when Carter finally revealed something monumental. The massive storm that almost destroyed the city was actually caused by a mutant, and the shocking truth was, it happened because of her. A dangerous man named Skur was trying to capture her and steal her powers. Before Ben could ask more questions, Carter stopped him. She said he first needed to prove that he could be trusted. Until then, she would keep watching him using her invisibility powers. When the weekend arrived, Max went to visit her mother. So Phil decided to take Liz and Ben out for lunch. At the food court, they unexpectedly ran into Jason and his mother. Since the two boys were classmates, Jason's mom invited them to sit together. But what Liz and Phil didn't know was that this sweet and polite kid was actually the same bully who made Ben's life miserable at school. Ben was shocked by how perfectly Jason pretended to be a good kid around adults. The next day at school, Max and Ben saw Jason bullying Owen once again, knocking over his lunch. They quickly tried to record proof on their phones, but before they could do anything, Owen ran away toward the changing room. Seeing how upset he was, Ben decided to follow him and try to calm him down. But then, something strange started happening again. Ben realized that his body was changing. Before anyone noticed, he quickly left. A few minutes later, he met Max again, and the moment she saw him, she was shocked, because Ben had now turned into the person he hated the most, Jason. At first, Ben couldn't believe it either. But then, he suddenly got an idea. Since he now looked exactly like Jason, he told Max that they should secretly record him pretending to bully people. That way, they could show Jason's mother the video and prove what kind of kid he really was. But Max immediately disagreed. She told Ben that using his powers to scare or hurt other kids was wrong, no matter the reason. Later that afternoon, while Ben was walking through the school hallways, something unexpected happened. Owen suddenly showed up. After years of being bullied, Owen finally decided to fight back. Thinking Ben was actually Jason, Owen punched him hard. Ben fell to the ground and lost consciousness. Later, he woke up in the hospital. His mother, Liz, was sitting beside him, taking care of him. During their conversation, Liz revealed something surprising. She said that ever since she met Jason, she had a feeling he was the same bully who broke Ben's camera. And she also told Ben something important. She never believed that Jason was a good kid. Suddenly, Ben noticed his arms slowly changing back to normal. Panicking, he quickly ran away before his mother could see his transformation. When he got home, Max was waiting for him. She excitedly showed him a strange video that had been spreading online. The video was about the huge storm that happened 2 years ago. After zooming into the footage, Max noticed something strange. There was another person standing inside the storm, not just Carter. This made Ben curious. Who was that mysterious woman? The next morning, Ben and Max decided to investigate. Together, they went to the exact place where the video was recorded. But before they could continue searching, Max suddenly received a message from her mother and had to leave. She headed to a bookstore to meet her. That day was Max's 13th birthday. Her mother, Julia, told her that she wanted to celebrate at Max's favorite restaurant. But there was one problem. Julia clearly stated that Ben and Liz were not invited. That evening, when Max left to meet her parents, Ben secretly devised a plan. He waited for Liz to return from work and casually invited her to dinner at the exact same restaurant. Of course, Liz had no idea that Max would also be there. A little later, they arrived at the restaurant, and just a few minutes later, Max walked in. Ben smiled, because his little plan had actually worked. Soon, all 5 of them ended up sitting together for dinner. While the adults were busy talking, Ben and Max quietly made an excuse, saying they needed to use the bathroom. In reality, they were secretly going to investigate the apartment connected to the mysterious woman from the storm video. When they reached the building, Ben noticed a boy named Enzo leaving with his family. It looked like they were moving out. Without wasting time, Ben and Max snuck into the apartment. They wanted to figure out what the mystery woman had been looking at through the window all those years ago. Inside, Max noticed something strange. The apartment looked like it was recently rented, with boxes everywhere. Suddenly, Enzo's parents unexpectedly returned. Now, Ben and Max were trapped. Trying to salvage the situation, Ben quickly transformed into Enzo, Pretending to be their son, he distracted the parents long enough for Max to quietly sneak out. Once she escaped, Ben quickly followed after her. Later that night, he returned to the restaurant, carrying a birthday cake for Max. Back at home, Max found something shocking. Under her pillow, someone had left her a birthday card. It was from Carter. Inside the card was a newspaper article with the name of the mysterious woman from the storm. After Phil gave Ben a professional photography kit, Ben felt inspired. He created a giant photo wall filled with every clue he and Max had discovered so far. Later, while eating ice cream in the kitchen, Phil noticed a photo in one of the newspaper articles. The woman's name was Vivian Kennedy, and according to Phil, she was Detective Darren's wife and also Carter's mother. The moment they heard this, Ben and Max knew exactly what they needed to do. They decided to visit Detective Darren. To avoid suspicion, Ben transformed into Leonard. With Max helping him, Ben tricked Darren into thinking they were doing an interview for a school history project. While Ben kept Darren busy with questions, Max secretly snuck into Carter's room to search for clues. Inside, she found one of Carter's old notebooks and secretly took photos of it. But things suddenly went wrong. Darren finally discovered Ben's secret. He realized that Ben was a mutant too. But instead of getting angry, Darren made an emotional request. He asked Ben to turn into Carter because, more than anything in the world, he just wanted to see his daughter one more time. The moment became emotional, but soon Ben and Max left and started cycling back home. However, while riding, they suddenly noticed something strange. A biker seemed to be following them. Max immediately grew suspicious and started feeling nervous. To stay safe, the two quickly headed to Morgan's house and convinced her to let them inside. Once Morgan learned that Ben also had powers, she finally decided to tell them the truth. And what she revealed changed everything. To Ben's surprise, Morgan also had powers. She could actually fly. Then she began explaining what really happened during the giant storm 2 years ago. According to Morgan, everything started because of a dangerous mutant named Yates. Years ago, Yates had been a student of Vivian Kennedy, who was Carter's mother. But there was a problem. Yates was proud, arrogant, and refused to listen or learn. Eventually, Vivian kicked him out, and Yates never forgot that humiliation. Filled with anger and a thirst for revenge, he later came back to town. But instead of going after Vivian, he targeted Carter. To protect the daughter of their old teacher, Morgan, and several other students joined forces to stop him. But by then, Yates had become much stronger. He was powerful enough to throw everyone into the middle of a massive hurricane. Seeing Morgan in danger, Carter finally lost control. She released a huge blast of energy so powerful that it stopped the storm completely and took away Yates's powers. After telling them everything, Morgan gave Ben and Max some important advice. She said they should go back to living like normal teenagers for now, and when Ben was truly ready, she would contact them again. Before leaving, Max showed Morgan the birthday card Carter had secretly left under her pillow. But something felt strange, because after the kids left, Morgan contacted Carter and asked why she gave Max the old newspaper clipping. That's when Carter gave a shocking answer. She said she never gave Max that card, which meant someone else did. Later that same night, Morgan received an unexpected visitor, and to her horror, Yates suddenly appeared. He declared he had come to finish what he started. The next day after school, Ben and Max returned to their clue wall to continue their investigation. But suddenly, Phil walked in. The moment he saw Vivian's photo hanging on the wall, his face changed. He looked scared. Without saying much, he quietly walked away. The next morning at school, Ben noticed Max getting embarrassed by one of the popular girls. Seeing his sister humiliated made him angry. He told Max she should stand up for herself next time. But Max just wanted to avoid drama and keep the peace. Ben, however, had another idea. Without telling anyone, he secretly transformed into Max. Then he went straight to Danielle and got revenge for how she treated his sister. But things quickly got messy. Right at that moment, Julia arrived to pick up Max for dress shopping before the spring dance. Now trapped in an awkward situation, Ben had no choice but to go with her while pretending to be Max. On the way, he secretly messaged Max and explained what happened. A little later, the real Max rushed to the store and found Ben hiding in a fitting room. She was furious. Max told him that she didn't need anyone fighting her battles, and she got angry because Ben kept using his powers however he wanted, without thinking about other people. After arguing for a while, Ben left feeling guilty. When he got home, he started realizing how badly he messed up. He understood that Max was right, and now he wanted to fix things. Later that day, Ben went back to the park hoping to find Carter again, but when he finally saw her, he realized something was wrong. Carter was in serious trouble. After stealing Morgan's powers, Yates had disguised himself as Carter to trick Wyatt. Because of that, Wyatt also lost his powers. Carter quickly told Ben to meet her at the mall the next day. Meanwhile, Ben tried to make peace with Max, but she was still upset and refused to listen to him. The next morning, Ben met Carter at the mall, just like they planned. She said it was time for him to finally train his powers. But while they were there, they noticed a very suspicious man nearby. The moment Carter looked at his wrist, she became alarmed. He was wearing bracelets that belonged to her missing friends. Without wasting time, Carter suddenly ran after him, but things went wrong fast. She got cornered. Worried, Ben ran after her, and suddenly, a dangerous man named Alistair Morris attacked him. Just when things were about to get really bad, Carter jumped in and used her invisibility powers to hide Ben. Thanks to her, he managed to escape safely. After leaving him somewhere safe, Carter disappeared again. Later, Detective Darren checked the mall security cameras, and that's when he noticed Ben was involved in the whole incident. Worried for the boy, Darren decided to talk to him. He warned Ben that he was in danger and said he wanted to help protect him, but Ben refused, telling Darren there was nothing he could do. Later that afternoon, Ben met Carter again at the park. This time she took him to an old warehouse where Morgan was hiding. Morgan then revealed something terrible. After Ben and Max left her house, Yates showed up and stole her powers. Long ago, Yates used to train alongside Rhonda and Wyatt. But even back then, he was always a troublemaker. He never followed rules and always did whatever he wanted. When Yates found out he would never graduate because of his bad behavior, he completely lost control. And that's when everything turned dark. Morgan revealed that Yates was the one responsible for Vivian's death. After that, he went after Carter too, because before Vivian died, she passed down an incredibly powerful ability to her daughter, a power stronger than all other mutants combined. Everyone believed that Yates had lost his powers during the giant storm, but they were wrong. Now, he was stronger than ever, and his new goal was terrifying. He wanted to steal the powers of every mutant. After hearing all this, Ben felt hopeless. He knew Yates was far too strong. Feeling scared and weak, he left because he didn't think he could stop someone like that. Meanwhile, we learned something emotional about Carter's past. After the attack, Vivian spent her final days in the hospital beside her daughter, and one night, while Carter was asleep, someone secretly left her a gift. At the same time, Detective Darren continued investigating the mall attack. Soon, he discovered that the man responsible, Alistair Morris, had actually been locked in prison for years. This made no sense. So, later that day, Darren visited Alistair in prison. He showed him a photo taken at the mall. Seeing the picture, Alistair looked confused. Darren explained that someone was pretending to be him. Then, he asked if Alistair could help him find Yates. But, the moment Yates's name was mentioned, Alistair reacted differently. Instead of fear, he smiled. He told Darren that Yates was actually his friend. According to him, he once sacrificed himself and even gave his powers to Yates. And because of that, he believed Yates would someday return the favor. After leaving the prison, Darren immediately visited Morgan. He gave her Alistair's full file and warned her that Yates was using his identity to hide. The next morning, while Ben was walking to school, Carter suddenly appeared again. This time, she told him something important. Other than Ben, Yates was the only shapeshifter she had ever known. That was exactly why she believed Ben could help defeat him. Carter explained her plan. She wanted Ben to pretend to be her and trick Yates into falling into a trap. But, the moment Ben heard this, he got upset. He realized she wanted to use him as bait, and honestly, he didn't like that idea at all. Seeing the situation getting worse, Morgan decided to ask Max for help. She hoped Max could convince Ben to listen before it was too late. Later that afternoon, Max finally talked to Ben, and after a long conversation, she managed to convince him to at least hear Morgan's plan. When Ben arrived at the warehouse, Morgan explained everything. Thanks to Detective Darren's files, they finally knew where Yates was hiding. Now, they had a real plan. They would sneak into Yates's house. Ben would use his shape-shifting powers to distract him. Meanwhile, the real Carter would surprise attack him and take away his powers. Because besides invisibility, Carter also had a special ability she inherited from her mother. If the plan worked, Morgan and the other mutants would finally get their stolen powers back, and Yates would never hurt anyone again. The next morning, the group snuck into the Morris family house, but things didn't go as planned. After searching the place, they realized Yates was not there. Since they were already inside, the group explained everything to Alistair's parents. Sadly, his parents admitted they had no idea how their son turned into such a dangerous person. Since the mission failed, Ben tried to return to normal life and headed back to school. During lunch, he talked with his friends about the spring dance happening that weekend. He also found out that Liz and Phil had volunteered to supervise the school party, but no one realized danger was much closer than they thought. On Saturday evening, Liz and Phil invited a few guests to their house before everyone headed to the school dance. While people were busy talking, Ben quietly snuck into his photography studio. Something felt wrong. He had a strange feeling that Yates might secretly be at the party. So, he messaged Max. But suddenly Phil walked into the room. At first, nothing seemed strange, but then Ben quickly realized something terrifying. This was not Phil. It was Yates in disguise. Before Ben could escape, Yates attacked him. The villain easily overpowered him. Within seconds, Ben was knocked unconscious. Then Yates did something even worse. He stole Ben's appearance and headed to the school party pretending to be him. When Ben finally woke up, the house was completely empty. The moment he realized what happened, he panicked, knowing his family could be in serious danger. He rushed straight to the school. Meanwhile, Yates secretly met Morgan and the other mutants inside the school hallways. He was just about to steal Carter's powers when suddenly Ben arrived and attacked him, but the fight quickly turned bad. Yates was simply too strong. Realizing he couldn't win, Ben transformed into Carter to confuse him. Right then, Detective Darren suddenly appeared. The moment he saw someone who looked like his daughter in danger, he rushed to help, but Yates attacked him and badly injured his knee. Darren fell to the ground and couldn't get back up. Scared and desperate, Ben ran away, but Yates threw him through a window. Outside, Ben finally ran into Max. Knowing he couldn't stop Yates alone, he begged his sister for help. Without wasting time, Max put on Ben's jacket and ran toward the gym to distract Yates. Her plan worked. While Yates was distracted, Ben and Carter finally got a chance to trap him. And then came the biggest moment of all. Carter finally touched Yates. Using the special power she inherited from her mother, she removed the stolen powers from him and gave them back to her friends. The fight was finally over. After everything settled down, Ben and Max rushed back to their family. At the same time, Carter finally reunited with her father. For the first time in years, she no longer had to hide or stay away from him. Now that Yates has been captured, he will finally face justice. Morgan thanked Ben for everything he did to help save everyone. But just when things finally seemed peaceful, something strange started happening to Ben. Later that night, while resting after the battle, he suddenly felt electricity moving through his whole body, and that's when he realized something terrifying. Something was wrong with his powers, and just like that, the story comes to an end.